IPL 2021 has not been cancelled, it's only been postponed. It will happen. The rescheduled IPL 2021 may not happen in India. We're looking for a window before the T20 World Cup. These are some of the comments made by BCCI President Sourav Ganguly and Vice President Rajiv Shukla over the last few days, pretty much indicating that the board has not given up hopes of completing the 2021 season of the IPL, which has actually 31 matches still left. As Ganguly also revealed, the board, according to early estimates, does stand to lose about 2,500 crore if the season is not completed. So now clearly, with a lot riding on the completion of this tournament, the next big question, of course, is when can the BCCI find such a big window to host the IPL? Now, with 31 matches left, including the knockouts, that's about 18 days of play required, even if teams play double headers every day. Now, add to that about 5 to 7 days of quarantine, depending on the country that hosts the IPL. UAE pretty much is a front runner right now, and add to that about 3-4 days required for pre-season training, and that's about a 30-day window that the IPL will require. Now, where in an extremely busy year that involves India playing a World Test Championship final against New Zealand, then India playing England in a 5-test series, and then India hosting the T20 World Cup later in the year, and then of course also the Ashes between not India, Australia and England. Where in all of that is the board going to find a 1-month window? So, well, to figure that out, I'm just going to keep eliminating months as we go along according to India's schedule, the schedule that they've actually already committed to, right? So, the first assignment for the Indian team now is going to be on the 18th of June when they play New Zealand in the World Test Championship final in England. India play England in a 5-test series in England that starts on the 4th of August. Now, many would say that that leaves about a month and a half long window between the World Test Championship final and the test series, right? But BCCI President Sourav Ganguly has already rejected that window, the idea of that window being the IPL window, announcing that the Indian team will be travelling to Sri Lanka for a 3 ODI and 5 T20 series. Now, of course, this Indian team will not comprise the players who are already part of the test squad that's going to be in England starting June. So that we pretty much will see maybe like a Shikhar Dhawan, a Bhuvneshwar Kumar, the Pandya brothers travelling to Sri Lanka as part of that squad. And after that, like I said earlier, India are playing England in a 5-test series between 4th August and 15th of September. And after a 2-week break, India are, according to the ICC FTP, slated to play South Africa in 3 T20Is and 3 ODIs starting the first week of October, leading into the start of the T20 World Cup, which is pretty much supposed to start from the middle of October till the final on the 13th of November. So the window between the end of the England tour, that's about 14th of September till the start of the T20 World Cup, that's mid-October. That's the window that BCCI is looking at for holding the IPL. They'll of course have to have some negotiations with Cricket South Africa about the bilateral series, but considering it's just a bilateral series involving 2 teams, it might be an easy negotiation to be had, and they could possibly have that series at a later date. But again, an IPL does not consist of just Indian and South African players, right? We need to also consider where the Australians, the English, the Kiwi, the West Indians are placed. Well, unfortunately, the England Cricket Board has already declared that they will not be freeing up their international players from international duty just for the IPL, especially if it happens in that window before the T20 World Cup. Ashley Giles, their director of cricket, in fact, has said, and I quote, "We're planning on the involvement of England players in England matches. We've got a full FTP schedule, so if those tours of Pakistan and Bangladesh are going ahead, I'd expect the players to be there," he said. Of course, that would rule out Owen Morgan, Joss Butler, Jofra Archer if he's available, Johnny Bairstow. Similar situations will be faced by the Aussie players and the Kiwis as well. Australia are slated to play Sri Lanka in the weeks before the T20 World Cup. New Zealand are slated to play Pakistan in the weeks before the T20 World Cup. Negotiations will not be so easy for the BCCI in these cases, considering players from Sri Lanka or Pakistan don't really play the IPL. Pakistan, of course, are not allowed to play the IPL, so they won't really be that accommodating in cancelling or postponing a series to let players play the IPL. Also, one needs to consider that if Australia, England, New Zealand are not part of this IPL, the completion of this IPL, will franchises even agree to go ahead? Because some of them will be put at an extreme back foot. A team like Sunrisers Hyderabad will be without 3 of their key players: Kane Williamson, David Warner, Johnny Bairstow. KKR will be without Owen Morgan, their captain. Pat Cummins. Virat won't have Glenn Maxwell. Mumbai won't have Trent Bolt. So that's a situation, that's a conversation that the board will need to have with the franchises as well, because if players are not available, it does put some teams who are heavily reliant on their Indian players, that automatically make them front runners, and then some players or some teams will of course suffer. There is also an extremely big part of this entire conversation that must be had between the players and the board, the Indian players and the board, because if this window is what the BCCI is looking to host the IPL, and then from the first week of June, when the Indian test players, including Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, leave for the tour of England, till the end of the T20 World Cup, which is around 13th of November, right? If they reach the final, for 6.5 months, these players are going to be living in a bio bubble. Is that something that the board would want to put their players through? Virat Kohli has of course already spoken quite often about how tours now need to be planned, keeping in mind the bio bubble, player fatigue, fitness. In fact, we saw so many injuries in Australia. Is that something the board wants to risk by continuously making their players play back-to-back tournaments? So of course these are long and hard conversations that the board, the players, the franchises, stakeholders will all have over the next couple of weeks, couple of months. So although BCCI does stand to lose a lot if the IPL does not finish, the 2021 IPL does not finish, there is of course a lot of factors that they need to keep in mind if they do want to go ahead and give us a winner for IPL 2021.